Good morning. Welcome back to the channel, Life Odysseys. Another beautiful day, sunshine, nice temperatures. Got my co-pilot with me. Say hi, Maggie. You gonna say hi, Maggie? Yeah. Anyways, we're gonna take a ride down to the barn and sit down and have a chat. So let's go. I'm sitting down here next to the barn. Got the three amigos in here, 2 donkeys and a horse. So we'll see if they're going to carry on or not. Anyways, this episode, we're going to talk about the most important race that probably changed my racing career. And that was the race at 1989 at Springfield Mile in Springfield, Illinois. So I had to back up a little bit to tell the story. So when I first started driving, we was building everything in-house, and the short track cars that I was driving was built in the mid-70s, early to mid-70s, the chassis was. So it was old. And it's the same chassis that Jim Vaughn won the Talladega ARCA race in, and I believe that was 1982. Anyhow, in 1988, after I started driving, it didn't take us long to figure out that we wasn't quite up to par on equipment-wise on the short tracks. Tracy Leslie, that year's champion, 1988, was running a Hal chassis, and Dad called them Saturday night specials, which you would see at your local track around the area at that particular time. It had the sheet metal body on it, but the interior and everything else, the suspension, all that stuff was lightweight and was made for short tracks. Well, over time, I think Dad seen this. Dad took note of what was going on and was probably going to have to do something. So in the process from 1988 till somewhere in 1988, Dad and Tracy Leslie became really good friends. And Tracy and them would stop at the race shop every once in a while when they was driving through, going to a certain race we was going to. They'd stop and hang out and bullshit and everything else. Well, after we got going into 1989 season, like I said, Dad knew that something wasn't quite right. So I think this deal had been brewing for a while, but Tracy had started driving selected races or was about to drive, one of the two, in NASCAR for AJ Foyt, which a lot of you know or would know or find out that AJ used to drive for Dad back in the late 60s. Won a USAC championship in 1968, driving for Dad. They was team cars for Ford. So during the middle of the season, I believe it was at Pocono, Tracy had approached Dad about possibly driving his car at Springfield on the mild dirt. Well, Dad laughed at him, thought Tracy was messing with him. Well, Tracy told him, he said, if I'm messing with you, Jack, he says, I'll give you $100 bill. He said, I don't know, I'll think about it. So in August at Michigan, that's when Tracy was going to drive for AJ in the NASCAR race. And that particular day was the same day that ARCA ran at Springfield, Illinois on the mild dirt. So our second trip back to Pocono, Tracy approached him again about doing it. We still thought Tracy was messing with him. Well, come to find out, he wasn't. So Dad told him, he said, yeah, I'll do it. So Dad had been out of a race car for, I believe, I think it was around 11 years. So, for him to go jump in a car, that's after 11 years, probably pretty hard to do. But you never forget, it's like riding a bicycle. You never forget how to ride a bicycle. Yeah, it may take you a few laps to blow off the dust and the rust, but it ain't going to take long for somebody that's done it for all those years to get back in the seat and just go. So, Tracy's cars in 1988, well, the whole time he ran ARCA, they was green. And I knew how Dad felt about a green race car. He just absolutely, thought it was bad luck. Well, and I did too, really. Never thought green was a good color for a race car. But Tracy apparently did. And it seemed to work out pretty fine for him. So, that was one of the things Dad says, I can't believe I'm going to be driving a green race car. So, the time was getting close, and Dad, had to find a uniform to wear and a helmet, updated helmet. And it was you haven't done it for 11 years. It's kind of a deal. So, and Dad, at that point in time, he had started having vision issues. He couldn't see quite as well as he used to. And I don't think the only glasses he ever wore was like reading glasses. Like at night, if he was reading a newspaper or whatever, that's all he ever wore. So come time to go to Springfield, we get out there and all focus is on, on Dad, which I understand completely. I get it. And, come time to go out to practice, he went out there, looked like he never forgot how to do anything. Just looked like a normal day. So, after a few laps, he was up to speed and one of the fastest on the charts. And he come in, and the thing about Dad, that's what, rubbed off on me. There's no sense of going out and wearing out a race car for no reason. And then especially on the dirt, the track changes so much and so fast. You just, you got what you got. I mean, yeah, it's just simple as that when it comes to that, because you don't have no time to do much of anything. And before you know it, you turn around, they line you up to qualify. And not long after that, you line up and go racing. So I don't remember what the order was as far as qualifying goes. I don't know if I went ahead of Dad or if he went ahead of me. It don't make any difference, but I didn't qualify as good as he did. That's for sure. So he goes out to qualify, and I'm standing in the pits there. I wasn't in the car, so either I was waiting to go or I already went. And they come by and took the green. Well, the first lap, he was already fast time. The second lap was even faster. And like I mentioned before, it looked like he wasn't going anywhere. He looked like he was the slowest car. But he was fast. So he come in, and sure enough, he sat on the pole for that day after being out of a car for 11 years. So so after we get, we start racing, he led a few laps and then he started slipping back. I think his vision was messing with him a little bit, which there again, I understand. I'm sure anybody would. But ran the whole race, and I think he ended up 10th. Yeah. But anywho, after the race was over, he come over to me and he says, Bobby, says, I don't want to hurt your feelings or anything. He said, but you're not going to outrun that car. As simple as that. He said, that car's way too good. You ain't going to outrun that car. So apparently after we got home from Springfield, Dad and Tracy got to talking. And I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong here. I don't think, see, Tracy, I think he ran all of the of course he ran 88 and won the championship. But I think he ran all of 89, but that was it after that. He just ran selected stuff. So at some time after we got back from Springfield, it wasn't too long, Dad and Tracy made a deal and we acquired that. It was a Pontiac Grand Prix. We acquired that car from Tracy. So he was going to run it the rest of the year. I think the last race he ran it was at Salem in 1989. So after the Salem race, we went up and got the car, brought it home, and we had to figure out what the hell we was going to do with this green car. I mean, the only choice we had just to go ahead and just paint over it and hope, we're getting paint rubbed off of it, the green will shine through. But the interior and all that stuff was green, so we brought it home and changed it over our collars, painted the chassis in all black. And then the outside at that particular time would have been white with a blue and gold stripe. And we proceeded to get that car ready to go in 1990. So what I mean by that particular race probably changed my career was if that didn't happen, to get a better car to compete, I don't know what would have happened. It would have probably been a long drug out deal that would have never went anywhere. And I just had to admit it. Our stuff just wasn't good enough on the short tracks. After the fact, we brought the car home and we made a jig off of that car. And we built our own. We built two more cars just like it from the ground up. So, and then bought Howe components to put on it. But the Pontiac is the car that I won my first ARCA race in at Flat Rock. The first race we ran it was a kill care. It got beat all to hell. I broke a left front shock mount and got a lap down. I think lap one or at least one, maybe two. We made them laps up, got down towards the end of the race. And this is, I don't know if anybody knows, but this is the big race where we had all the fights at the end. And the headlines in the paper went to a fight and a race broke out. But anywho, come down for the last lap. I got on the inside of, it was Mark Gibson and Jerry Churchill and I think it was Bob Keselowski. Well, maybe it was just Gibson and Churchill. I was running third, going through almost the last corner there, and I got past Churchill and got halfway up onto Mark Gibson. And Churchill hit me in the right rear and turned me into Gibson. And me and Gibson crashed. And Churchill went on to win his one and only race, I believe. But anywho, so we come around to the racetrack and we get up towards the front stretch, and my brother comes on the race, says, hell with it, go on up there to the front start finish line. Maybe you'll end up getting the race, So we did. So I get up there and I look in my mirror. Here comes running somebody's pit crew member coming up to, I don't know, smack shit out of me. I don't know. But one of my crew members intercepted this guy, and that's the last I seen of him. So I get out, and they're fighting everywhere. But that's the deal when Keselowski come in and change the tire and come out there when Churchill come around there and rammed right into him, drove him up into the guardrail. And they was fighting. I mean, fights everywhere. Fights in the infield, fights everywhere. It was out of control. So needless to say, I got a registered letter from ARCA, put me on probation for the rest of the year. And that's the thing about ARCA then. I'm sure it was the same in NASCAR, that whatever happens on your crew, the driver's responsible. So yeah, I got a registered letter in the mail for that. So then we fixed it. That's when we went to Flat Rock, and I won my first race in the ARCA series. But yeah, that particular day in 1989, I believe, was the most important day in my racing career, because if it wasn't for that, I would have never succeeded and done what I did in 90 and beyond. So that's just a short story of one of those deals that I wanted to tell you. And I think that's going to be it for today's video. So until next time, take it easy, have a good day, and I'll talk to you soon.